Welcome back to this explainer. From the outside, a hydroelectric dam just looks like this massive, impassable wall of concrete, right? Just sitting there holding back a huge body of water. But inside, inside it is a highly tuned, incredible machine. Today, we're going to explore a really fantastic architectural cross-section to discover exactly how the whole thing works.
Seriously, think about that for a second. How does a quiet, totally still lake generate enough electrical power to run an entire city? It almost seems like magic, doesn't it? We look out at a peaceful reservoir, completely motionless, yet somehow it provides the roaring electricity that powers our lights, our computers, our whole lives. As we're about to see, the dam is kind of like the ultimate translator. It literally takes nature's absolute silence and translates it into pure, surging energy.
Let your eyes wander across this cross-section for just a moment. Over on the far left, we've got the calm, deep blue of the reservoir, and as we move across to the right, we travel straight through this mountain of concrete, down into the intricate machinery hidden at the base, and finally out to those towering transmission lines stretching way off into the distance. This basically maps out the incredible journey we're about to take together, step by step, from raw water to raw power.
We can actually break this complex system down into 4 pretty simple steps. First, water enters the intake. Second, it plunges down the penstock. Third, it spins the turbine. And fourth, it gracefully exits through the draft tube. Let's dive in. So, Phase 1, the giant concrete battery storing all that potential energy.
Focus your attention right at the top left. See where that vast, deep reservoir meets the face of the dam? Right there, you'll spot a structure poking up just above the waterline. That is the intake tower. Imagine millions of tons of water just pressing against this wall, filled to the brim with stored potential energy, absolutely desperate to find a way down. Well, the intake tower is the only way in.
But, you can't just let anything floating in the river get sucked inside. Notice the trash rack right on the face of the intake. It acts as a massive protective grate. Think about all the random stuff floating in a large river. Tree trunks, branches, boulders, even chunks of ice. The trash rack is absolutely crucial. It's the first line of defense, filtering out all that debris so it doesn't get inside the concrete walls and, well, completely destroy the delicate, high-speed machinery spinning below. Okay, so once the water passes cleanly through the trash rack, it hits the gate. See that bright red mechanism resting right inside the intake tower? That is the dam's master control. Dropping or raising this incredibly heavy steel gate acts as the ultimate on and off switch for the entire power plant. It's pretty straightforward, really. When demand for electricity is high, the gate is lifted and water rushes in. When demand drops, the gate is lowered right back down, sealing the intake shut and safely holding all that potential energy inside the reservoir for later.
Moving on to Phase 2, the water's high-speed plunge, transforming from potential to kinetic energy. The tunnel that makes this high-speed plunge happen is called the penstock. And you know what's truly amazing here? The dam doesn't use any pumps or machines to move the water. None. Gravity does absolutely all the hard work. The massive weight of the water above pushes down on the water entering the penstock, forcing it through this steep internal pipe and rapidly accelerating its speed. Let's follow the water's path here. Trace those thick blue arrows as they plunge down that long diagonal pipe. Honestly, you can almost feel the speed building just looking at it. The water acts almost like a physical object in a free fall, just racing toward the bottom. By the time it reaches the end of this steep plunge, it is no longer the quiet, gentle water of a lake. No way. It is a pressurized, high-velocity weapon aimed directly at the dam's machinery.
Which brings us to Phase 3. The heart of the powerhouse, and the ultimate transformation. Down at the very bottom, look at where that rushing blue water slams into the machinery. It violently hits the blades of the turbine, that wheel-like structure painted light blue. The incredible force of the water forces the turbine to spin at just dizzying speeds. And here, right here, is the genius connection. As the turbine spins, it rotates that vertical gray cylinder connected to it. We call that the generator shaft. Notice the fascinating diverging paths taking place right here at the turbine. It's actually really cool. The water is forced forcefully downward to return to nature, spinning the turbine before getting flushed out. But the energy travels straight up. It travels up that spinning generator shaft, moves out to the electrical equipment, and travels on to civilization. Literally, water goes down, power goes up. So, let's follow that power up the shaft.
Point your eyes to that bright red component sitting squarely inside the powerhouse room right above the turbine. That is the generator. Inside that red housing, you've got these massive electromagnets spinning rapidly past coils of copper wire, driven entirely by that turning shaft below it. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that this exact spot, right inside this red housing, this is where mechanical spinning is physically converted into the invisible electricity we use every single day.
Meanwhile, what actually happens to that incredibly pressurized water that just smashed into the turbine? Well, it enters the draft tube. Notice how this pipe suddenly widens out at the bottom? This intentional widening takes that chaotic, super fast-moving water exiting the turbine and dramatically slows it down. It acts a lot like an exhaust pipe on a car, safely releasing the water back out into the tail race where it rejoins the downstream river and just peacefully flows away.
All right, phase 4, sending power to the grid, moving from the dam to the city. Draw your attention over to the far right side, just outside the powerhouse. See those gray boxes sitting next to the building? Those are the transformers. Because, you see, the electricity coming straight out of the generator isn't actually at the right voltage to travel long distances yet. The transformers essentially step up the voltage, giving it that extra push it needs. Once the voltage is boosted, the power shoots up to those massive metal lattice towers, the transmission lines, where it will travel for miles and miles straight into our electrical grids. Finally, phase 5, safety and structural secrets going way beyond just power generation.
Just look at all these incredible structural features operating at once. You've got the spillway for routing excess water during a flood. You have these hidden galleries for engineers to do internal inspections. There's actually a navigation lock right there, acting like a giant water elevator for boat passage. And on the very top, the crest of the dam serves double duty by supporting an access road. I mean, think about it. The dam is simultaneously a bridge, a boat channel, a power plant, and a hollow maze of inspection tunnels. It's wild.
To really appreciate all of this, look right at the curved surface of the dam. See that steep, light blue chute running down the front? That's the spillway. If the reservoir gets dangerously full from heavy rain, they can just bypass the power plant entirely and send the water safely over the spillway so the dam doesn't, crack under the pressure. And look really closely at the face of the concrete wall. See those tiny, rectangular windows cut right into the side? Those are the galleries. Engineers can actually walk inside the hollow walls of the dam to monitor the structure's health. It really is like a hidden city of concrete.
It is truly staggering when you break it all down. So, I leave you with this thought. Next time you plug in your phone to charge it at night, will you picture the quiet reservoir, the heavy steel gates, and the rushing water plunging inside a massive concrete mountain just to make that simple action possible? Understanding the brilliant mechanics hidden all around us really does make the world so much more fascinating, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I will see you next time.